The black-eyed children, also called black-eyed kids, are mysterious beings that look to be of kids between the ages of 6–16-year-old. They only appear at night and to unsuspecting adults alone in parking lots or in their homes. The kids come in groups of 2 or more and often ask for favors. The favor could be to make a phone call, to get a ride home, to come in and get something to eat, or to use the bathroom. The few people who have had interactions with the black-eyed kids express feeling unexplainable fear when the children are near. No one really knows where they come from. Extraterrestrial, UFOs, vampires, and of course, demons are a number of the assumptions around the kids. Brian Bethel was one of the first people to document having met black-eyed children in real life. He published a transcription of the event on his blog back in 1998. The following is part of his story. It was around 9:30 p.m. on January 16, 1998. And Brian left his apartment in Abilene, Texas for the drop box to pay his internet bill. On the way, he stopped at the Dollar movie theater next to his service provider's building to use the glow of the marquee as light to make out his check. As he did this, there was a knock on the window and saw 2 young boys. He placed them between 10 and 14 years old. He describes the boys as: Boy number 1 was slightly taller than his companion, wearing a pullover, hooded shirt with a sort of gray checked pattern and jeans. I couldn't see his shoes. His skin was olive-colored and had curly, medium-length brown hair. He exuded an air of quiet confidence. Boy number 2 had pale skin with a trace of freckles. His primary characteristic seemed to be looking around nervously. He was dressed in a similar manner to his companion, but his pullover was a light green color. His hair was a sort of pale orange. They didn't appear to be related, at least directly. Almost immediately he knew something was up and felt a sense of fear. The first boy began to tell Bethel that they need his help. They wanted to see the new Mortal Kombat movie but forgot their money. Instead of asking for the money itself, the boy asks for a lift to their house to retrieve it. Our narrator is nervous and hesitant as the first boy continued to try to coax him, saying things like, "Come on, mister. We just want to go to our house. And we're just 2 little boys, and come on, mister. Let us in. We can't get in your car until you do, you know. Just let us in, and we'll be gone before you know it. We'll go to our mother's house." Brian Bethel found himself unlocking the door, without realizing and as if instructed by the child to do so. After catching his hands, he looks back at the kids with a fresh perspective. That's when he realized that the kids' eyes were solid black. No sclera. No iris. No pupil. So black-eyed kids. The mere idea of them terrifies me. It didn't used to. In fact, I didn't understand what the big deal was. I don't know why. I mean, I read the online stories and articles about black-eyed kids is just like everyone else, but I just didn't have that visceral reaction so many other people did when reading about them. So I embarked on a quest. I'd show people just how unscary these things were, whatever they were. Who knew if black-eyed kids was even a real thing? I'm the kind of person who needs to see it for myself. I began doing a lot of research online. I looked at the paranormal sites, I watched scary videos on YouTube about black-eyed kids, and from everything I gathered they found you didn't find them. And it seemed like it was pretty much just by chance if they did find you. So what was I to do? I came up with a plan. I began putting up an anonymous ad on Craigslist. It read, "Black-eyed kids. I am not afraid of you. I want to meet you. 9 p.m. Wednesday. The park bench on the corner of 3rd and Washington. Show me why I'm wrong and I should be afraid." The bench was only like a block from my apartment, so every Wednesday I would walk down there and see if anyone or anything came by. I usually wouldn't sit there, I'd stand back and watch. I'm not stupid. I may not be afraid for black-eyed kids, but I know the internet can attract some nuts. And it did. Occasionally. Nothing exciting enough to write about though, a couple pervs and some teenage kids joking around. So this went on for 6 months and then I stopped posting the ad. The week I stopped I got a knock on my door. I was sitting on my couch and it was a little after 9 p.m., I don't know how to explain it, but the second I heard that knock my skin went ice cold. Ice cold. I didn't need to get up. I knew who it was, and much to my surprise I was terrified already. I was wrong about not being afraid of black-eyed kids. The fear is on a different level, an instinctual, primal level. But still, I managed to get up and open the door. And yep, there was a kid, about 9 years old. Olive skin, dark hair, solid black eyes, staring up at me. "Can I come in?" he said. I was speechless. After what seemed like an eternity I responded with a no, and I began closing the door. "We missed you at the park tonight," the boy said. I stopped closing the door. I looked at him, my mind racing. "They've been watching me." The boy smiled up at me. It took everything I had to make my arm move again, pushing the door closed and locking it. As soon as I shut the door I gasped for air. I hadn't been breathing. I sat back against my wall, facing the closed door. Knock. 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 He was still there. I waited. Nothing. It took me at least an hour to move from that spot, staring at the door. I didn't sleep that night or the next night. Eventually I collapsed with exhaustion at my desk at work, only to be awakened minutes later by a nightmare memory of that boy. It's been 6 months. I can't explain the fear that washes over your body when you see the eyes on these kids. And the state of your mind, the way your body wants to listen to what they're telling you, what they're asking. I thought if I told you my story it would help me get over what happened and warn others. I'm positive these kids are evil and the people they meet who can't resist whatever power they wield. I don't think we will ever hear from those people. I now avoid that corner park bench with everything I have, and I don't tell anyone why. People think I'm crazy sometimes, walking 3 blocks out of the way just to make sure I don't go near it. But you'd be the same way if you went through what I did. Black-eyed kids are nothing to mess with. He said one was probably around 13-14 and the other around 16-17, both boys. They weren't dressed up, but he remembers the older one was wearing a flannel checkered shirt. He was immediately overcome with uneasiness, like opening the door was a huge mistake. They just stared at him and he noticed they had really big irises and dilated pupils. He couldn't even see the whites of their eyes, so he figured they were contact lenses. He was frozen there holding the candy bowl, like he couldn't slam the door in their face as much as he wanted to. So he nervously tried to smile at them, hoping they would break character and ask for candy or something. The younger one said they had gotten lost and needed to come in and use his phone. That was when he closed the door more than halfway on them and said no, sorry, and the older one said something like, "Can we just wait in your house until our parents come get us?" But by then he was convinced that his life was in danger and these kids must be high on something or intending to rob him, and he just kept mumbling no, sorry, good night as he inched the door closed and locked it. He told me he was so fucking scared at that point that they were going to try to break in through one of his windows or something, but he looked through the peephole and they had turned to leave. He watched TV with the volume really low so he could hear any sounds at all, and he said he stayed up till like 5 a.m. because he was too scared to go to bed and drop his guard. The whole time he's telling me this I'm thinking, oh my god, this sounds so familiar, just like the black-eyed kids urban legend. Then I thought, hey, maybe this dude is trying to scare me because after all, he does have the Halloween spirit. So I'm looking at him incredulously but trying not to seem too gullible. So I'm like, man, that is really crazy, sounds like the black-eyed kids. He just looks at me blankly, the what, is that a movie or something? And I said no, but told him to go look it up online. Like an hour later I get a knock on my door, and admittedly, almost jump out of my skin thinking it's a demon child. It was my neighbor and his eyes were freaking huge. He swears to me up and down that he had never heard of the black-eyed kids before and it's so similar to what happened to him. So we talked a while longer and I told him that quite a few people probably know about that urban legend and it's possible it was just teenagers with black scleral contacts trying to freak people out on Halloween, which would be genius, by the way. But he said the fear he felt was so primal and came over him the second he opened the door for them. Anyway guys, beware, I guess. Halloween would definitely be the perfect cover for them.